All right, welcome everyone. So what I'm going to do is do a quick farm income situation and outlook. Where we are now and where I see 2025 going. This will sort of at the big. This is from the USDA back in November. It's the net farm income. This is sort of all of agriculture in the U.S. You know, from broccoli to apples to cows and pigs and chickens and all that kind of stuff. Corn and soybeans are a big one, obviously. But showing us down about 6% from last year. We're still though that 20-year average. So it's not as good as it has been. 2022 is a record. We're down from that, but so things are slowing down and tightening up. And this is cash receipts. This is how much you get from selling stuff. On the left is crops, on the right is livestock. And those numbers are they're both. So you kind of get a sense of the scale of sales of what we produce. On the left is crops. We're down 9.2% on crop revenues. On the right is livestock. It's plus 8.4%. So what you're seeing is, how is the farm economy doing? Depends who you're talking to, livestock producers or crop farmers. You can see almost 21% in cash revenues. This is from 23 to 24. Soybeans down about 12%. You switch over to livestock, it's all roses and rainbows, plus 7.2% for the cattle and calves. Dairy almost 12% up from to 23 to 24. Broilers are up 6%. Eggs, really booming in terms of cost. Well, from the retail farmer's perspective, revenues are up 39%. Now let's look at the production year. This is how did the 2024 crop season go? What you have for corn and soybeans. On the left is Wisconsin, on the right is the United States as a whole. The percentage of the acres in what we call good to excellent condition. This is what the market likes to watch to see how the crop is progressing over the season. Corn is the top two, soybeans is the bottom two there. And what you see, 2024 is the red line. And then you have the last other several years there. What was 2024 like in Wisconsin? Last year was a little rough, but it's still not like it's always been. We're been behind. Both corn and soybeans in the state were not as good as they were in 2020, 2021, et cetera. Whereas at the U.S. level, things were a lot better. The red line is much more on the upper end, where a lot more of the crop was in good shape. So we had a not quite perfect year. Let's look at the data. This is just for Wisconsin. This is 2024. It started out wet there. That top left is the temperatures, right on average. We had average temperatures in the bluish green there. The aqua is precipitation. It was above average there for the beginning. And then at the end, it started getting average. Then you really saw the precipitation fall off. It got dry. Now, the bottom figure there is that good to excellent condition. It's pasture, though. This is a USDA NASS data on pasture. Think of the landscape. I use it as a way to understand what's going on. What did you see out there? And you can see 2024 looked pretty normal on the upper end. The landscape was green, doing fine. And then August is starting to slow down, but September and October, it really drops off. That's that dry weather. So on the right there, July 23rd, that's the drought monitor for the state of Wisconsin. Clean. There's no drought, no dryness anywhere. Less than 2 months later, September 17th, you can see how half the southern chunk of Wisconsin is in its drought, up there in the north as well. We really saw that end of the season really dry up, and that affected our crops. These just came out back in January 10th, a little bit ago. These are the USDA yield estimates from NASS for the corn on the left and soybeans on the right by state. And you got it highlighted there so you can read it. 174 bushels for corn, that's 1.1% less than last year. Whereas the soybeans, 48 bushels, almost 6% less than last year. You can kind of see that band of red. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Indiana, and then further eastern corn belt, the same thing with the soybeans. These are low. They weren't horrible. The corn was 5th highest ever, the soybeans is 8th highest. And that dry at the end of the year really affected the soybeans. The way it was described to me was, yes, the pods are full, but the beans are the size of BBs. They're not big like they're supposed to be. They were much smaller, and so it really affected our yields, especially on the soybean. So let's look forward. Coming for 2025, this is the weather. On the bottom right there, January 16th is the drought monitor. It's dry. We got a brown winter happening here, but you can see the brown on the northern Wisconsin, down here in the southeastern as well. Slide over, though, that map at the bottom with the brown and the other colors. What the NOAA is predicting is this drought status for the state. We're going to clean that drought up. We're going to get moisture. On the top left is our temperature expectations for April, May, and June. average. Basically saying we're not looking for anything unusual in terms of temperatures, equal chances of above and below average. On the other side, though, you can see the green for the precipitation. It's likely to be a April, May, and June. Looks to be, there's a little bit more chance of being higher than normal precipitation. So what's coming for 2025? A wet start again, but should be normal temperatures. Now let's switch over to sort of the economic stuff. This is the USDA's estimate of cropland value. So we're going to move into economic indicators. What you see here is that the percent yield or land values went up a few percent, 2-3%. You see that same thing in the other states here in the Midwest, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois. You go further east, you got bigger jumps there in Michigan and states like that. But it's been a small climb up. And these are the same data just for average. Wisconsin in red, you see the last several years there. We've gone through a big land value increase, both in the U.S. and in Wisconsin here. But what you see, I think, is that land values are beginning to stabilize. We're not going to see we saw years of flat land values, then we saw that big jump. We're kind of done with that. Land values went up 2.7% from 2020. A lot of indicators that that is slowing down. But it does affect rental rates. These are the average rents. On the left are the state or the counties that had the largest jumps in the average rental rate for cropland. The dark green is 14 to 16. The lighter green is 10 to 12. Is 8 to 9. Those are the leading ones. All the other ones had small changes as well. But and then I showed the top counties there in the state. And what you see is the percentage changes. Here, Dane County had an almost 8% increase. Same with Kewaunee up in the northeast there. But then you see Grant and Lafayette, our leading counties, they had very small changes. For Brown and Walworth for the year, but you can kind of see some of these counties had small increases, small decreases, but things are slowing down, but there's a few areas that are catching up yet. Next one is interest rates. I like to point this one out. Interest has been a big question for a lot of people. They're finally coming down. This is from the Federal Reserve Bank out of Chicago, that 7, where big chunks of Wisconsin are. But you see, it was about 8.5% and 7.5%, and we're finally seeing the third quarter here, back at the end of October or beginning of October, the interest rates have started to come down, just like we've seen elsewhere. That will affect operating loans and land loans. Now, what I want to do is talk about inflation on at the farm level as well as, but not the consumer as much. We'll talk briefly about the consumer. But you can see the producer price index is one you don't hear about as much. This is the cost of things to all the production stuff in the economy, not just agriculture. And this is something the St. Louis Federal Reserve puts out. This is the producer price index. This is the all commodities. This is for farms and businesses buying stuff to make things with. And you can see it was very flat for years after the Great Recession. We had that little blip, the gray is a recession, that was COVID, and then you saw the big jump in commodity prices, the producer price index, and then it's been level ever since. Goods have been fairly in terms of prices, but you really see that the consumer price index has continually grown all through this stuff. It's even accelerated there, and we've all seen that at the grocery stores and other places, how food prices have gotten up. We're back on trend, but they're still growing, whereas the good side at the economy is flat. Consumer prices due to costs of services and housing. That's what you really look at. They've broken it out. And it's going to be things like healthcare, insurance, accommodations, transportation. It's not the gas, it's getting the person to take you somewhere. It's not the building, it's the heat. It's not the heating the building, it's having someone take care of the building, fix your car, drive the vehicles, or sell you the policy. It's not the services that have really been affecting driving the inflation in the economy. Same thing in agriculture. This is USDA 23 to 24 changes. The bottom are decreases in cost, the top is increases, and what you see is that goods are all going down in cost. That's your things like feed, fertilizer, pesticides, fuel. Those have been decreasing costs from 23 to 24, whereas the service-oriented things that require people are all going up. Labor, obviously, and I have a hard time reading, interest, property, taxes and such. The beef cattle, buying feeder cattle has always gone up as well. That's driven, we'll let Brenda talk about that. But input costs are declining, service costs are increasing. This trend is going to continue into 25. I don't see any change in that. Now we're going to talk about the 25 crop. This is for corn and soybeans. These are what farmers are going to put in the ground soon. These are the break-even prices. You got Northern Illinois from the University of Illinois. You got both these have been updated and they're out in January. UW Extension hasn't quite gotten theirs done yet. That'll be done soon. But that's the 24 prices, and this is the 25 break-even prices and the percentage change from last year to this year, from 24 to 25. You can see break-even costs are down in Illinois, 7% for corn, 5%. If you look at Iowa State, you're talking about 6%, only down about 1% for soybean. If you apply those same things to Wisconsin, you get those numbers in red down there. If you do the 7 or the 5.4, whichever one you want, whichever budget, we're going to be somewhere in this region, though. And what you're going to see there is about $4.90 for corn and $12.40 for soybeans. Here's the section of the farm average price for the year: $3.90 for corn and $10 for soybeans. So break-even price is $4.90, $12.40. Those are the average farm prices for the year. We're looking at the average Wisconsin farmers looking at a margin of a negative $1 per bushel for corn, about $2.40 for soybeans. They're going to be losing. Cost of production includes, things like paying themselves, returns to land, and stuff like that. But this is tight margins out there. That's the story for 2025 for crops. Tight margins. This is a publication called Balancing Sustainability and Innovation that UW Extension specialists have put together. This is sort of the collective wisdom of the ag people that do agronomy, the weed management, the nutrient management. It's 16 pages of things on how to deal with these tight margins, being economically sustainable, but also you can't give up. You got to think about how to move forward and move your business, move your farm forward. That's the innovation side. How do you balance that in these tight margins? The collective wisdom of the extension, the crop, we'll call them the cropping systems people. So the last thing we'll talk about briefly is this policy update. Continuing resolution passed at the end of the year. It included $21 billion for this ag disaster assistance. That's primarily for the hurricane. I don't Wisconsin producers. But there was also $10 billion in emergency economic assistance. We're still waiting for the details, but projections. These are just, you've seen different numbers out there. You can find some other ones, but around $42.50 for corn. Soybeans around $29, $30. Wheat, you can see the numbers there. Oats as high as $78. Take these numbers, that's about $240 million coming to Wisconsin producers. The other thing that the continuing resolution did is extended the 2018 Farm Bill for one more year. That's ARC and PLC. So they've started the sign up for the 2025 crop for ARC and PLC. It starts today. Our friends at Farm Service Agency are busy with that. Passed, I have these recommendations. I put this together. People can get the real short little sheet of paper that I understand they hand out at these sign-up meetings, or they have other ways you can get it. You can get all the details there if you want to know more about why I say this. But PLC for corn, they've got a few base acres in sorghum and sunflowers. There's also PLC, and then county ARC for soybeans and all our small grain, oats and barley. That's where I think is the best deal. But you can wait around for the baseline to come out in mid-February for estimation of prices, prospective plantings. What's different this year is it ends in April 15th because of the delay in getting it started. So you have an extra month so you can actually wait for the prospective plantings report to come out. So this is the farm income, and then we're done, is government payments are another source of money. Besides crop revenues, livestock revenues, this is the payments over the last few years. And what you see during the pandemic, we had record payments going out, PPP loans and all these CFAP payments and everything. The bottom there is really falling down to these more less than $10 billion. These new changes we're looking at, these new monies going out that will be paid in the 2025 year, it's over $35 billion right now, plus some more from these commodity programs. There's some pretty good chances ARC will pay for several counties here in Wisconsin. It doesn't take big yield declines at the county level to trigger these ARC payments. It's 2% for corn, soybeans, 7% wheat, and oats. You can see that. We had that sort of slightly below average year. Corn and soybean yields were down. I think several counties will be triggering ARC payments here in Wisconsin. And so you can kind of see, we're going to see it push up to that $35 billion or more level, and that's going to be much higher than we've seen in the past, in the last few years. So we got some policy questions that are out there. What's going to happen with, are we going to see trade wars? We'll talk about that this afternoon. Will the emergency economic assistance count against ARC payments? That's my big question. You got $10 billion, but are you going to get paid for low revenues in 24 for the 24 crop and receive that this year? Are they going to pay you twice for once for an ARC payment? I don't see that happening. So situation outlook, crops are down, livestock is up, overall farm income is down about 6%, but we're still above that 20-year average. Outlook, input costs are down, service costs, labor is up. Crop margins look really bad for 25. There's tremendous interest in these commodity ag policy into 2025 and beyond. So we'll talk about a lot of that this afternoon. So thank you.